the steel tides roar, engines echo through the iron shore.
Welcome, everyone. It's time for another episode of Harbor Freight Transports, How Harbor Freight Transport Can Help. I'm with Eric Trout, Vice President, Senior Vice President of Business Development.
Yes.
Close enough. Okay. All right. So today we're going to be talking about LTL. What is LTL, Eric?
Yeah. Less than truckload. That's what LTL stands for. Harbor Freight, we have our own asset-based less than truckload network. Less than truckload shipments are typically characterized as 1 to 4, possibly 5 pallets. Most of the time, anything that's going into the less than truckload networks out there, you would be wise to go ahead and palletize that cargo just because it has multiple handlings to get from point A to point B versus a full truckload. A full truckload will just go to a shipper. They'll load the trailer and that truck will go directly to the destination. Less than truckload is the network. Your freight will get picked up by a local driver. That cargo will go to a local LTL terminal. And then that local LTL terminal will put that on a line haul schedule to either a hub or what they call a break bulk facility. And then once it goes into or passes through a hub or a break bulk facility, it'll eventually arrive at the delivering terminal, where the delivering terminal will unload that cargo, and then they will put that out on a what's called a P&D, pickup and delivery driver, who will do the local delivery or pickup of your cargo. But it's typically 1 to 4 pallets. If you go over 4 pallets or 5, then you can get into what's called volume pricing. Volume pricing is more just like a spot rate where the less than truckload carrier says, hey, yeah, that lane where this product is moving, I need a little bit more cargo in that lane, so I'll give you this rate versus your regular contractual rates on that.
So before we head into the pricing discussion, because that's something that our viewers are going to want to know, what I do want to know is, you said 1 to 4 pallets. So pallet or less is LTL and everything else is parcel or full truckload. Is that the dividing line, or are there other qualifications?
Well, small parcel, UPS and FedEx, the two big players, they have what are called hundredweight programs. Small parcels, typically 1 to 5 individual cartons, but they do have what are called hundredweight programs where you could get upwards, depending upon your cargo, of maybe 10 to 15 individual packages, all going to the same destination, right? That you got to look at it all going to the same destination. So when you think about that, depending upon that pricing program, if you ship 10 to 15 cartons that weigh, 150 to 200 pounds, you're probably better off putting that into a less than truckload network as a minimum charge shipment versus paying that hundredweight. Again, small parcel, hundredweight programs, it all depends on your volume, that you ship. But, typically small parcel would be the 1 to 5 individual cartons, not palletized. It cannot be on a pallet because that cargo has to go through a conveyor type system to go through the parcel system, whereas less than truckload, it's all forklifts, right? So you're going to want to put that cargo on a pallet, and it's going to get loaded onto a truck. It's going to go to local terminal, get unloaded. It'll get moved out on an outbound schedule, going in the general direction of where the final destination is. Probably go through a break bulk facility, get rehandled again, and then shipped out to final destination delivering terminal for delivery.
Okay. So, how is LTL pricing calculated?
Well, it's depending upon who you ask. It could be a lot of smoke and mirrors because the pricing can become very, very complicated. The NMFC, National Motor Freight Classification guide is out there for shippers, and that is updated. But the NMFC classification is it can be difficult to understand if you're not an everyday LTL shipper. But if you're a large LTL shippers, you know what your classification of your cargo is and where it falls. And it's kind of like in terms of international shipping, your HTS, your harmonized transportation shipping codes, HTS codes. So is it a bicycle, completed bicycle, or is it bicycle parts? It'll be classified two different ways, right? And the NMFC code looks at certain freight characteristics like density, right? How much space does this cargo take up, and what's the total weight? Because you have to take into consideration your trucking laws, where you cannot have more than 80,000 pounds gross. That's truck, trailer, fuel, cargo weight, etc., and transported down the road. So the NMFC code takes those freight characteristics for those types of products, where you can actually look up what your product is, and it'll say it's class 500, which is very, very, very light cargo that takes up a lot of space. So the analogy you would use for like class 500 freight is ping pong balls, right? If you were to load 2,000 pounds of ping pong balls, they don't weigh anything. They take up a lot of room, especially in cartons. You're probably looking at 253-foot trailers, right, worth of cargo space. Now, take other cargo like nuts and bolts, right? Nuts and bolts shipped on a pallet in cartons, very, very heavy, very dense. It doesn't take up a lot of room in the trailer. So that would be a classification code of 50 or 60, very dense. So what the LTL carriers are doing is they've only got a finite space in those trailers that they can load, right? So the classification of your cargo, it really allows the carriers to say, how much cargo can we load in this trailer? Again, 2,000 pounds of ping pong balls, while it doesn't seem like a lot of weight, it's going to take up 2 tractor trailers worth of volume. 2,000 pounds of nuts and bolts, that's probably 148 by 40 pallet, maybe 20 inches tall, right? Doesn't take up a lot of space. So it's pricing is predominantly generated off of the carrier's own pricing tariff, because all the LTL carriers, they have their spots where they want to go, they have spots where they don't want to go, etc. So they have their own base tariff, and then you get a discount percentage off of that base tariff, along with minimum charges. So LTL pricing can be complex, but once you get into it and you start realizing what you're doing, it's not that complex. Now, there has been a shift, which is very welcome, in particular with the international community, for LTL carriers to go away from the old NMFC code classification and going purely with dimensional freight. So this is the DIMS, this is the weight. You can calculate pounds per square foot. And all international shipping, that's how all the pricing is comprised anyway. It's DIMS and weight, how much space are you taking up in the ocean container, et cetera, if you're not buying a full container. So that's, a lot of shippers have seen that as a very positive move. It's easy to understand, and it's well known in the international community.
So we covered pricing.
Or it really depends on the LTL carrier. Coast to coast, I'd say most nationwide LTL carriers are delivering within 6 to 7 business days. Now, you don't count Saturday and Sunday in LTL transit. It's all business days. So if you were to pick up on a Monday out of, say, Richmond, Virginia, going to LA Long Beach, 6-day transit, you pick it up on a Monday, it would probably be delivered on Tuesday or Wednesday of the next week. A lot of factors go into the transit time that shippers don't really, uneducated shippers don't really know about, right? So you can have a 1-day transit lane, which would be like a regional move, North Carolina to Virginia, right? Great example. That's a 1-day lane. But if you put a note on that shipment that says requires delivery appointment, well, you just shot your 1-day transit lane completely out of the water. The cargo is going to get to the destination delivering terminal, but it's not going to go out on the street to deliver because it has that note. You must call for a delivery appointment. So pick it up on a Monday, the freight's going to arrive Tuesday. And depending upon, the delivering terminal's workload, does the appointment clerk have the ability to make a call first thing that morning, Tuesday morning, and get a delivery appointment? Yes, no. It could be delivered Wednesday, could be delivered Thursday. So there's a lot of factors involved in transit. So the vast majority of less than truckload shipping, it moves without a delivering appointment, right? Because it's only 1 to 4 pallets. Truck backs up, somebody drags them off, they check the freight condition. So it's not like they're unloading, 3,000 floor loaded cartons out of a 53. So, but you got to watch out for that. And then, each carrier has their own strengths and weaknesses. Now, the LTL carriers do publish all their transit lanes, and I would have to say LTL carriers are very advanced in their technology. So you can just go on their webpage, put in your origin zip code, destination zip code, and they'll tell you exactly where, what the transit is, give you the pertinent information about, like, here's the pickup, or here's the phone number at the pickup terminal, here's the destination delivering terminal phone number, customer service email.
So you killed off one of my later questions, which we'll ignore. So how is the freight handled and protected during transit?
The freight, again, I said freight should be palletized, or depending upon what the cargo is, should be in a crate, some type of material handling type approach, because LTL carriers predominantly rely on just standard forklifts, your 5,000-pound forklifts. They don't have the special equipment like Harbor does with jibs and booms and, 35,000-pound lifts. So it's really incumbent upon the shipper to adequately pack their cargo so it will withstand LTL shipping. There are mechanisms that certain shippers use. For instance, in a previous life, in my LTL life, I managed an account that shipped light bulbs, right? So obviously you do not want to stack other cargo on top of light bulbs. They're very fragile. So you can put freight indicators on it. You can label it "Do Not Stack." There's little pyramids that go on top of the cargo that let the LTL dock workers know, hey, do not load on top of this cargo. It's if you've never seen a break bulk at a major LTL service provider operation, 10 o'clock at night, it is just pure chaos, but it's beautiful because you have all these forklift drivers going, running full speed, unloading inbound trailers and moving pallets to individual outbound trailers, right? And it's really neat to watch, to be honest with you. I mean, it's pretty amazing. But yeah, the shipper needs to know their cargo, know the characteristics of their cargo, and make sure it's adequately packaged.
So it falls more on the shipper to make sure that,
Yeah, 100%. I mean, don't go shipping a $250,000 piece of motor control unit, which is top heavy, and only have stretch wrap on it and have it on a pallet. If the product price is $250,000 and it's sensitive material, I think you should be able to spend $60 to $80 on some plywood and put it around it, to create the material, just ensure that your product's getting from point A to point B in good order, right?
So are there any additional fees, hidden fees that I should be wary of?
I'm on the phone. Sorry about that. Hidden fees. Yeah. One of the great things that you need to watch out for is length of material. If LTL carriers have linear foot rules, which means, if the product is longer than 8 feet long, it may be class 70 and it may weigh 1,000 pounds, but if it's 10 feet long, you're going to get hit with this linear foot rule, which means you're taking up too much space in the trailer, right? Because you can't stack other cargo on top of it. You're taking a quarter of the trailer basically lengthwise to be able to load into. So you do get that. You also get limited access deliveries, places where it's really it's difficult to deliver or pick up from. A prime example of that is like a school, or a lot of these nonprofits, they operate out of churches. They're doing donation boxes, they're building pallets, but they don't have a loading dock, right? So it's all street level delivery or pickup. So you have to notify the carrier you need a liftgate piece of equipment to be able to come out and pick this up. So you would get hit with something like that. Residential deliveries, or storage units, you know, in today's modern world with the with, you know, a phone and a computer, you can operate out of anywhere. You get a lot of people who will import products and they'll have it at a used storage place, right? And that's a viable business, right? But again, a used storage place does not have a loading dock. You have to make an arrangement to meet somebody there at a specific time. So those are some examples of some hidden fees that you might find with LTL shipping. And you know, I'm a carrier advocate. It's not really to make money. It's because you as a shipper didn't give us the right information, right? And we don't have the right equipment there. So yeah, there is a real time and cost factor where, you know, that driver's on the clock getting paid by the hour or by the mile. And if he or she driver doesn't have the right equipment to make the pickup, then that's time, effort, fuel, etc. that they spent, right? So it is a cost.
All right. So we've been talking in general about what's different on the way the harbor handles it.
Yeah, so Harbor with our own assets, we're a very regional carrier. A lot of people don't. A lot of our clients don't even know that Harbor offers less than truckload pickup and delivery services. But you know, we're not a huge national carrier like an Estes or an Old Dominion or a Transforce. We operate in the New York metro area. We cover 100% of New Jersey, 100% of Long Island, the 5 boroughs. We'll go up into Connecticut. We'll go into Massachusetts, you know, very regional, about a 150-mile radius outside of Newark. So we do have that service where we will pick up miscellaneous LTL within our region and do the deliveries, or we'll do something. We can operate as, I'll throw another term at you, pool distribution, right? So we can be a pool point provider, and that's where companies who are very well seasoned and educated with LTL shipping, they'll say, I'm going to take all my cargo that I have going into the New York metro area, and I'm going to run it on my own truckload carrier, and I'm going to deliver it to Harbor. We get that shipment at our warehouse, and then we unload, and then we see, oh, I have 15 shipments from this one truck, and I got to do 15 individual deliveries, right? So that's pool distribution. Benefits of that, you're reducing the number of times your cargo is handled, and you've got more control as a shipper of your costs versus putting it into a regular LTL network. Because then you know what your truckload rate cost is, that's a fixed cost, versus am I just a piece of a line haul truck that has 40 other pieces of shipments in there, or, you know, shipments in it. So pool distribution, we operate as a pool distribution provider. You know, we'll do store deliveries. You talk about hidden costs. You know, delivering into a mall or, you know, or a storefront. Most LTL carriers, that's a hidden cost. They're going to hit you with that because, again, it's just, there's not really a loading dock. The driver has to go to an area, may have to walk 200 yards with the cargo to a storefront, etc. But we do that. You know, Harbor does that day in and day out. What we also do is pick up of air freight at JFK as well as Newark, New Jersey. So air freight will come in, it's individual shipments, pallets, cartons, crates, etc. It'll come off the airline, it'll go to a local warehouse. We pick that cargo up, and then we can move it within our network to do the final delivery. So that's on Harbor's assets. That's a Harbor truck, a Harbor driver picking up and delivering directly, to that. Now we do have an extended network where we've got the ability to ship cargo anytime, any place, anywhere in an LTL network because we have contractual rates with national LTL carriers. So if you had a shipment in Savannah, Georgia, and it needs to go to North Carolina, is that going to move on a Harbor truck? Not really. We're gonna put it on to one of our schedules, one of our network carriers, give you the best rate from our buying power, and then they will deliver it. Harbor will manage that all the way from pickup to delivery. So we will do that. And then we'll also have the circumstances or situation where it will be a combination of a Harbor pickup with our asset, but another carrier may deliver it. A great example of that would be like an air freight shipment coming into JFK. It's going to pick up on a Harbor driver. It's going to come to our warehouse facility in Kearney, New Jersey, or Newark, New Jersey. And then if it's going to deliver to, call it, Mississippi, we're going to hand that cargo off to one of our LTL network contracted carriers, and they'll do the delivering down into Mississippi. You were very, yeah. I mean, we're very underutilized. We've got a huge push right now to get more and more less than truckload cargo into our less than truckload network. So, right now delivering into that 150-mile radius of Newark, New Jersey, we've got additional capacity. We've got a very, very easy to use pricing format. It's just what's called a hundredweight program. So you don't have to worry about the NMFC classification. You don't have to worry about the dims and weights. It's here's what the weight is. This is your rate per hundredweight, et cetera. Point A to point B. It's more of like a zone-based tariff. We're extremely flexible. If you want to do a rate per pallet, we can put that type of pricing together for you as well. But it's one of those things that, everybody thinks of Harbor as the big, heavy stuff, but we do less than truckload, and that's a piece of business that we want to continue growing. And we've got capacity and we can take more. We would love to have more and more pool distribution freight, right? So if there's shippers, on the West Coast or Midwest that want to be able to, deliver their cargo to us, and then we can put it out for delivery, that would be right up our wheelhouse.
All right. So then last question I want to ask is, how do people get a hold of you?
Oh, yeah. Well, so you can utilize our regular rates at harborusa.com email address for the LTL, or my coworker, Ken Gross. He's really tasked with heading up the LTL business development, and his email is just kgross@harborusa.com. And you can always reach out to me. I'm always here. I think everybody should be well educated on less than truckload, because there's just so many moving pieces, and you see all kinds of cargo, and it's extremely interesting. And it's no 2 days are the same.
All right. So we'll end it here. When you need LTL help, get a hold of Harbor Freight Transport, or What was the gentleman's name?
Ken Gross. Ken Gross.
Get a hold of Ken Gross, kgross at harborusa.com. We'll be back again with another episode of how Harbor Freight can help you with your transportation needs.
Rolling in like the steel tides roar, engines echo through the iron shore. Cargo's heartbeat drums the dock to life.